Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Immigration Fridays. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Titi. Hi. Good morning. Good morning, Swangile. Great. Hi. Before I go into our topic and what we're talking about today, good morning. My name is Rumbi. I'm here in sunny Coventry. It's nice weather. Spring is coming, so it's nice. It's brightening up, and I am the founder of Tulia. We help migrants to settle well. Giving legal advice and holistic support. So our Immigration Fridays is one of the ways that we do this, and we provide opportunities for people to ask questions about immigration issues. I'm from Zimbabwe, and but we have people who listen to this broadcast from all over. But hey, as Zimbabweans, we're hurting, I think. Who watched the documentary, part 1, on Al Jazeera? And I know it's not much to do with immigration, but it's just heartbreaking, isn't it? It's, I don't even like to watch it. I don't like to engage with such things because it just makes me feel frustrated. It makes me feel helpless. It makes me feel angry. It makes me feel so mad, especially when I see what people are going through here and the challenges that we're facing. So if you've watched it, let me know in the comments and what your thoughts are. But yeah, I try to protect my emotions because I don't want to get invested emotionally in things that I don't have much control over. And sometimes we can get angry, we can scream and shout, and things just don't change. So it's frustrating, isn't it? I find it very frustrating. So I disengage from things that cause me stress. So I'd rather talk about immigration. I'd rather talk about things that I know about, that I know I can have some control. So I'm going to, I've had some questions which I'm going to answer, and some things that that have been coming up over the last week, and it's easy for me to answer some of the questions here. So I know a lot of people will ask me questions, and somebody asked me a question which was, it's a quick one. So most of the things are not quick ones for me, and I use this live on a Friday as an opportunity just to get into some questions which are common, but also there is a lot of information on our website. So I'm going to go into the hot one, which is Linda's asked, and I think everyone's asking about the red list for healthcare professionals. And does it mean people cannot come to the UK now? No, it doesn't mean that people cannot come to the UK now. It just means that big recruiters cannot go and recruit on a massive scale in the red list countries. So Zimbabwe has been added onto the red list, so it makes it more difficult now for big recruiters to go. So some organizations like the NHS, they will just send in recruiters and say, we need 200 nurses, we need 400 social workers, and they go and do mass recruitment. So that red list for healthcare professionals, it means that the people cannot go and do that mass recruitment in Zimbabwe, and we've been added onto the list. But it doesn't mean that people can no longer come here. It doesn't mean carers can no longer come here. So private recruitment can still be done. Applications can still be made by the people. They can still make the applications directly to organizations. So it does not mean that people cannot come. it just changes the way that people are going to be able to recruit. So the code of practice for international recruitment of health and social care personnel in England, it gives ethical ways to recruit. It shows recruiters what they cannot do, and so it's constantly being revised, because what they want to do is to look at the good for the whole world. So if all the nurses are finished from Zimbabwe, if all the doctors are finished, and everyone is in England, who is going to look after the people who are left behind? So they don't actively recruit from those countries, right? But people can still apply. So it's just the active recruitment. So the code is always being updated, it's always being looked at, it's always being changed. So it's active international recruitment is what is being stopped for the countries that are on the red list. So it's actually says that the contracting bodies, big recruitment organizations, agencies, collaborations, subcontractors, they target individuals to market UK employment opportunities with the intention to recruit the role. So they do that physically, they do that virtually. So giving incentives, advertising, referring them for a fee. So that's what's being limited. But there's nothing to stop an individual from seeing an advertisement and applying. And so it doesn't mean that people cannot come. So we need to get that clear so that people... So a direct application is where you don't use a third party, a recruitment agency, or collaboration. And it can only be made in response to a vacancy that is hosted by the recruiting organization. So if you see a job that's being advertised for nurses by Bupa, a job that's being advertised for nurses by HFC, by the NHS, you can apply. So you can still apply. But it's like MMA. I think the email that's going around is from MMA, and MMA is a recruitment company. So they are actively recruiting, and that's what this amendment to the Code of Practice says. So Linda, thank you for asking that question, and I hope that is that's clear for people. There is a link to it which I can share for people to read and see. And I think what we need to do as people is to normalize reading and normalize comprehending. So sometimes we live in an age of screenshots. We live in an age of fake news. We live in an age of forwards. So sometimes people can forward an email, but not reading the source. And not reading the source to understand what the source is saying. It takes time to read, I know, but it's so important to read, because you can get yourself into a panic, because people were now panicking, and you make yourselves open to abuse. Because if you don't read yourself, somebody will read for you, and they'll give you the wrong information, and then you fall into, they'll say it's closed, so the only way you can do it is if you pay me, or whatever. So if we normalize reading, I think it's very good. There's some jokes that people make about people that if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book or put it somewhere where they have to read. So it's just a meme that goes around, but maybe it's true, isn't it? Because we don't like to read. So I think it's important to normalize just going through information and not just looking at screenshots and then reaching a conclusion from that. So thank you for that. I'm going to go on to the next question from Rulo, which is, thank you so much, Rulo. It says, I have a skilled worker visa and working as a veterinary nurse. Oh, that's really interesting. So initially I came as a senior care worker, then switched to veterinary nursing. My question is, on the 20 hours, am I allowed to do them in care? So it depends. You're allowed to do an extra 20 hours in the same standard occupation code that you have as a veterinary nurse. So you can do 20 hours as a vet nurse, which may be available for you, but you can also do it in any shortage occupation. So you can do it in the code 6146 or 6145 or any other shortage occupation. So you are allowed to do the 20 hours in your specific code where you're working or in any other shortage occupation. So yes, I think the short answer to your question is yes. But the reason why I specified the same standard occupation code or a shortage occupation is because some people would then go and take a job maybe as an accountant, maybe take a job in a different occupation which is not on the shortage list. So then that can potentially affect you when you're applying to renew your visa or when you're applying for indefinite leave to remain. So thank you for that question, Rudo. And that's interesting. It's nice to know different sectors where people are working. So working as a veterinary nurse, I think that must be nice. And I hope that you can share your journey as well with others of what qualifications you had, what you had to do to adapt, and how you entered into that field, so that other people who might be in the same field as you, who are still in Zimbabwe or South Africa or somewhere else and want to work, can know. So thank you for that question, Rudo, and all the best with that. Thank you. So Zimbabweans who are in South Africa, yes, will still be affected, because you see the recruitment will be that the recruiters can recruit South African citizens in South Africa, but a Zimbabwean citizen in South Africa is still a Zimbabwean citizen. So a Zimbabwean can still apply for the jobs, but they may not get the incentives and the recruitment packages from the big recruiters. So your nationality, if you're a Zimbabwean and you're living in Poland, if you're a Zimbabwean and you're living in Australia, you are always a Zimbabwean. You're still a Zimbabwean. So they look at your nationality rather than your location. So I hope that's clear, Begezela. Thanks for that question. Yes, Upenyu. Thank you. It is, isn't it? It's always good to research and read. And Tulia, thank you so much for that, for the link to our website. And please, can you share this video onto our Tulia page, because I forgot to cross post. So yeah, so thank you for that. Great. Tanya Radzwa, thank you so much for that question, and I'm going to screenshot it. And if you don't mind, I will answer that question next week and just dedicate it all to children and coming with single parents, blended families, different types of scenarios. So I'm going to do a whole session on that, because it actually is it's one of the issues that we get the most inquiries on. So I think it deserves to have enough time, because I'll be here, I know, for another 15 minutes, and I wouldn't be able to dedicate time for that. So I will do that either as a live or I'll do it as a webinar, but I think it's a very important topic, and so it's important. I have done one before. If you go onto our website, and I would encourage anyone who's watching to go onto our website, which is www.tulia.org.uk, and go through our section on videos. There's a lot of old topics that I've covered and many questions on there. And for those who are joining us now, please may you also go onto our YouTube channel, which is Tulia Group on YouTube. If you could subscribe, then you'll get some of the content which we make exclusively for YouTube, and some of our old videos and old lives that we've done. And if you could go onto our website, please, www.tulia.org.uk, and also follow us on Tulia page, and then also follow me, and then also follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn. Please connect with us on all the various different platforms. Thank you so much, because we share a lot of information on all of those platforms, and also there's some old information that we have. Please subscribe to our newsletter, subscribe to our WhatsApp groups, because we're always sharing information to people through the various different platforms. So I've got another question which I'm answering, which came on my phone on WhatsApp, and I'm just gonna answer it now. And it just says, good morning, just a quick one. It's for someone to switch from dependent visa to care worker visa. Do they need IELTS as well? So if somebody wants to switch from a dependent visa to a care worker visa, do they need the English requirement? So yes, they do. They need the English requirement, either IELTS or the UK NARIC if they've got a degree. So definitely they need that. Then the second part of that question is, my brother is currently on a care worker visa, but he was a maths teacher in Zim, but he doesn't have a degree, and there's teaching assistant jobs, and he wants his wife to go onto the care worker visa so that she can switch, and then he can become a teacher or a teaching assistant. So yes, you can switch around. So if your spouse is the dependent and you are the one on the care work visa, if your spouse meets all the requirements, passes the English language requirement, passes and gets a DBS and gets a job offer, they can become the main applicant, and then you can become the dependent, so that you're more flexible. And if they do switch, so if one of you becomes the main applicant when you were a dependent, yes, you do lose your the years towards the 5 years for indefinite leave to remain, because you are starting again. So if they switch, then they will lose the 5-year qualification and they'll have to start again. So you can switch. And I think what's important to note is that if you come with your spouse and something happens, maybe somebody gets ill, or if the wife is the main applicant and she then becomes pregnant, has small children, so it's better for the other spouse to become the person who's being sponsored, and the other person becomes a dependent, because it enables them to do other types of work. It enables them to be more flexible. It enables them even to do child minding and get a qualification and become a child minder at home, because they can look after the baby and at the same time child mind, whilst the other part the husband is the one who's a carer. So it's always good to be flexible, because you might come with one who's doing this, but the other one, or coming from like Zimbabwe, maybe the wife is an accountant, and the husband is doing business. But the wife is the one who decides to come here on a carer visa first, and the husband stays behind, but then joins with the family. But it makes more sense for the wife to be an accountant, and if she can get her job in her field, so that the husband becomes the carer, so that you earn more for your families. So it's always good to be flexible and to be able to adapt. Or teachers, maybe somebody might find an opportunity as a teacher and the salary is more, the hours are better. So you're then able to navigate and to see who's better placed to do what. So at any point you can change. But when you change the main applicant, then you do lose some of the time that you've spent towards, because you need to have been working on the skilled worker for the 5 years. So that's really, really important in that respect. So I hope I've answered that question, and I hope that is good. Yeah, so I've just answered it. Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining. And I'm just going to just talk about one last thing, which is there's 2 articles that I've seen this week about a student from Zimbabwe who was jailed after being found guilty of sexually assaulting a woman. And then somebody called Marshall Shonai, he wrote to boys, he said to boys dzangu dziri kuenda kuchando uko munoita mushe ukoko mukada kuzoita I can't read the rest of it because it's quite long, but because I took a screenshot, so I can't find the rest of it. But it's a very good topic for discussion. Men and boys who are coming here, if you've got brothers, if you've got uncles, if you've got sons, or if you are a boy or a man, please be very, very, very careful. Sexual assault is treated with the seriousness that it deserves here in England. And these conversations are important conversations to have with male family, and even for men to have among themselves. Because if you touch a woman, kumbata mazamu, to touch her breasts, that is sexual assault. You don't have a right to touch a person's breast. Touching them in a nightclub, even if they're dressed, and women, summer is coming, and women will wear what they want. They will wear what they want. They will wear short shorts. They will wear a bra. They will wear a bikini. But that doesn't give any man the right to touch them or to make remarks which are sexually suggestive, or to catcall and whistle. That's harassment. If you see a woman and you start following her in the street because you think that she's dressed naked, you end up being arrested for that, for sexual harassment. If you go nightclubs, they'll be wearing nothing, breasts are out, everything. They are allowed to do that. People are allowed to wear what they want. But I think where we come from, people feel entitled to comment on what people are wearing, to comment on wakashama, why are you wearing this, why are you exposing yourself, and sometimes feel that it's an invitation to treat, it's an invitation to touch. It's not an invitation to touch. It's not an invitation to do anything. You keep your space. So there's so many reports of people being arrested and people being charged, and it's not just like new arrivals. It's in our work we do deportation, and we see the type of criminal cases that our young boys go into prison for. So sexual assault, rape, date rape, where you go on a date with a girl, she's dancing with you on the dance floor, she's looking like she's into you, but when you go home she says no. No means no. It's not stop, I like it. No means no. No means no. So please, let's reinforce this message, because we don't want to see our brothers in prison, because I'm telling you that people will go to prison. And when you go on a date with a girl and you're both drunk and then you have sex, afterwards she says, I was not in a state to consent. She was vulnerable. She didn't get drunk with you and then expect you to take advantage of her when she was totally out of her mind. Because a person who is drunk, they cannot consent. A person who is drunk cannot consent to sex. But a boy who is drunk can initiate and have sex, and he will be found guilty of rape. So it's not an excuse to say we were both drunk. No, it's not. And that is one of the things that we find that a lot of people get into trouble for when they're acculturating and they're just coming in. So please, let's have these conversations. At work, please, no inappropriate remarks, no touching, no None of this, because it ends up with people going to prison for rape, for sexual harassment. And so consent is very important. Consent, when somebody is able to make consent, to say yes, because they are not drunk, they are aware of what they're doing, and they can say no at any point. Somebody can initially say yes, but they're allowed to change their mind. I'll share this video on our page about tea, because it reflects a lot about consent. It's a very good little video, and I'll share it because it's important. Please share it. When I share this video, please share it with your cousins, your uncles, your brothers, people who are whoever you have in contact with. Let's talk about this. I remember my sons going to university. It's a conversation that I had to have with them both, to say, guys, when you're going to universities, you're going to go out on nights out. Please do not go home, and you shouldn't be having sex with people that you pick up out, when you're just on a night out. You shouldn't be doing that. It's irresponsible. But more, it's also in addition to our values and our Christian beliefs about the sanctity of sex within marriage. And then they look at me and say, Mom, you're so ancient and old-fashioned. But we still reinforce our values and our beliefs. But in addition to that, just from a perspective of preventing possible criminal convictions or charges, boys, I beg you, be careful. Don't overstep the mark. Don't make inappropriate jokes. Don't make inappropriate remarks about people's dressing. No one asked for you to comment. No one asked for your opinion. No one cares. Nobody wants, because it's a free country. So women are allowed to wear what they want, and especially with summer coming, you will see. So it's so important to ensure that we pass on those lessons, and we ensure that people don't get into the criminal justice system, because once you get in there, it's then probably prison. This young man from Northampton who came out in the paper, who wasn't even remorseful, he fired his lawyer, he wasn't listening to anybody. Maybe he thought he could defend himself, maybe he was still trying to justify himself, but the court found him guilty of 2 counts of sexual assault. They'd been out drinking, and he was left alone with a woman. He took advantage of her state by touching her sexually without her consent. So he touched her sexually. So even touching someone's breast without their consent, even if they are not, if you think the way that they're dressed they should, or whatever, you're not allowed to. So, or wherever, I don't know where he was touched, where she was touched, but he ended up being sentenced. School is finished. He's now going to probably be deported to Zimbabwe. And so it's very unfortunate, especially when so much has been invested into making that transition. So I encourage everybody, please, to be careful, to understand about consent, to ensure that you have consent, not to touch people, not to make inappropriate sexual remarks, not to make remarks which have got sexual undertones to people, because they will report you. You can end up getting fired from work as a carer because you've said something to another carer. Don't think that anyone owes you anything. Some of the things that I hear from people who've been arrested is, the girl, muzimba futi, sure akandisungisa. No. Apana mnaga kusungisa. There is no one who had you arrested. It's your actions that caused a reaction. Because if you think that because someone's a Zimbabwean, you're therefore entitled to do what you want with them, no one owes you anything. So we need to normalize that and not make victims feel guilty for going to the police, because the police are there to protect victims. So we have a lot of mixture of people who are like the girls who have grown up here. They're British girls. We have people who have come. And so sometimes people think because our families know each other, if something like that happens, we can sweep it under the carpet. But no, Victims will report, police will believe them, and they'll take it seriously. So where we victim shame, but it was the way she was dressed. No, it wasn't because of the way she was dressed. It was because of you, what you did without her consent. So we need to have those conversations in our families, whenever we are, so that we prevent and help as many people as possible not to get into the criminal justice system. We don't want to have to defend you. We don't want to have to do that, because at the end of the day, the consequences are very serious, because it's not just a criminal conviction, it's also deportation. It's also losing the right to work, because you lose the right to work if you get on your DBS for sexual assault. You can be put on the register for sexual offenders. You lose your job, you lose your visa. So the consequences are too much. So we need to be able to have those conversations and help each other as a community, and have those conversations in our groups, on WhatsApp, wherever we are, how we communicate with each other. It's important to reinforce those messages. So thank you, everyone. Next week, I will be back on Friday. Yes, I will be back on Friday, and we're talking about children and migration, single moms, blended families, all of that. What's needed? What should we do? And be able to cover that topic. But for today, thank you so much for watching. Please share this video with someone. Please, it might save someone from prison. It might be something that someone needs, So please share this video. Please also go onto our website, www.tulia.org.uk. View the content that we've got on there. Go onto our videos, which are on YouTube, Tulia Group. You'll find so much information. Contact us if you need our services. Sign up to our newsletter. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Every day we're always sharing really informative content, and you will get it there. So if you're a migrant and you want to settle well, follow Tulia, and you'll be able to get all the help you need holistically. So thank you so much for joining me on live today. Have a wonderful weekend and enjoy the good weather. It's going to last for a couple of days, so before it snows again. I think the weather is just crazy, but anyway, for today it's a bit sunny, so enjoy it. Have a wonderful day, and God bless you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.